Hello, everyone. Welcome to Catalog and Cocktails. It's your honest, no BS, non-salesy conversation about enterprise data management with tasty beverages in hand. I'm Tim Gasper, longtime data nerd and product guy, and joined by my co-host, Juan.
Hi, I'm Juan Sequeda. I'm the principal scientist here at data.world. And as always, it's Wednesday, 4 o'clock Central. It's the middle of the week, and it's great time to take a break and talk about data. And with that, we have fantastic guests today. We have some folks who are really game changers in this industry. We have Michael Murray, who is the president, and Bret Harper, who's the chief data officer of Wunderman Thompson Data. Michael, Bret, how are you guys doing?
Welcome to the show.
Fantastic.
I like the idea of taking a break to talk about data. It's kind of
And what's the best way of doing it with some tasty beverage in hand? So how about we kick off with what are you all drinking and what are we going to toast for?
Well, I've got a little bourbon in the glass. I know that doesn't feel or sound like St. Patrick's Day kind of drink, but trust me, the Irish, we're a fan of the bourbon.
I think the brown and the green are both fine.
I've got an Irish mule.
Well, both Tim and I are dressed up in green. I think we both have green drinks. I'm doing one of my favorites. I only drink gin and tonics now, adding cucumber into it. I actually will grate cucumber and just squeeze it. So it's pure cucumber water, and you mix it with gin and tonic. This is a great drink.
Wow,
man, that sounds good. That's fancy sounding. I looked up on Google and I was like green drinks, and I tried to map that against what I had, and blue curacao and orange juice and a little bit of vodka, and hey, we're in business.
All right, so I guess let's cheer for a happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody.
Cheers, happy St. Patty's.
Cheers.
Right, and then we got a quick warm-up question we got today. Who really was St. Patrick, and what he might buy if he were alive today? Michael, I think you had some thoughts about this.
Yeah, well, it being data-driven, I would say, and just describing him, I'd say maybe 3 foot tallish, a hat, small pot of gold, may have a bit of an accent. But I was told by Bret I was completely on the wrong track. So he
was probably on some cereal kind of carton or something.
Some cereal, yeah. Some Lucky Charms.
All my Irish relatives right now are cringing at my answer, but it is what it is.
All right. Well, hey, post in the chat. Tell us where you're coming from. What are you drinking? What are you toasting for? And who you think St. Patrick really was? And just as a quick reminder, for everybody who's listening and everybody who's here live on the show, please give us your review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Rate, review us. We are so excited about how the podcast is growing, and it's all thanks to everybody who's listening and sharing this all over the place, and obviously our great guests. And with that, let's just go dive into this topic today about identity graphs and customer 360. So I'm just going to start with this honest, no BS question. What's the deal with customer 360? Like, isn't this something that this has been a thing for 10, 15, 20 years. Isn't this, why does it continue to be like a big topic? Like, shouldn't this be a solved topic? What's the deal with customer 360?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Yeah. I've been drawing that diagram. I won't even say the first time I put that picture together in terms of better understanding who customers are, but I've got to say what's continued to change is the technology, capabilities, and support around reaching that. It's 360 is more like a practice, right? It's like golf or yoga, right? And you're constantly leaning into finding better ways to actually truly deliver on that, because it is not there today. But I'll say, and we're going to talk a little bit about this in this kind of no BS kind of space, is what we're doing today with Knowledge Graph. What we're doing today is I don't know, the difference between a horse and a car. They'll both get you there to the destination, but what we're able to do is shockingly improved, and the rhetoric is the capabilities are finally aligning to the rhetoric, and it's fantastic. I know we'll cover off on that a little bit more detail, but Bret, what do you?
No, I think when you think about customer 360 and kind of the idea behind it is to build a complete and accurate picture of consumers across. Sorry about having a little bit technical difficulties here. A complete and accurate picture of consumers across by pulling together consumer data across a variety of structured and unstructured data. And it's really a challenge, especially for big companies like ours, where we're dealing with large volumes of data. And we've got data in silos, we've got data from old systems, we've got data from all over the place, right? Different formats, different quality levels. So when you think about Customer 360, I think a lot of the challenge really is if I have data in all these different places, how do I bring them together and do it in such a way that it's accurate, that it's complete, and that it's reliable, and then I can use it to add value and add value to my customers, add value to the company.
So Wunderman Thompson is such a big company and has so much rich history about it. There's Wunderman Thompson Data that you guys are part of. Tell us a little bit more how Wunderman Thompson kind of is structured, and what are the business kind of the real pain points of when it comes to data and customers. I'd love to get that overview.
Yeah. Well, let me just kind of connect you first into Wunderman Thompson. So we're a $2 billion global agency, a part of a larger holding company called WPP. Our role with our clients is to help them understand people and communities, connect that to their brands, their strategies, their marketing and their media programming, and connect data to that so they can better understand who their own customers are and who the community of customers or potential customers they should be connecting and serving. The threat of data has now become the persistent drumbeat in every conversation. You can't walk in the door without being able to bring the ability to enrich what they can know about their own customers, so their own first-party data, enrich that with more. They know a customer very well vertically as they're stitching that together, but horizontally, we bring that deeper understanding to the table. And then we connect that to things like machine learning to get deep on discovery, to its pattern recognition and feature creation to better understand their customers, and then connect that to how do you better serve them? How do you better support them? How do you better communicate with them? The where's, the how's, and then how do you identify people that are best fit for their products? Obviously, think about it from their perspective is they only have X amount of resources to be able to reach out into the marketplace, and they want to be able to connect that to people that the brands should factually resonate. It doesn't do a brand any good to communicate with somebody that they're just completely off message or non-connected. So our job are to connect those brand strategies and needs with people where it's going to resonate and matter most. And data is at the foundation of that. And so if you think of a $2 billion agency, we're building the fuel and the capabilities and the resources so that we can show up and help make brands smarter, and then reach people more effectively and be able to drive value for the consumer as well as obviously the bottom line.
That makes sense. And how is technology coming in to play with that and help with that, right? I mean, obviously you've been saying that, the boxes have been showing up on the diagram for a long time now. Yeah. Obviously more recently terms like identity graph come up. How does that play into your strategy and how y'all tackle all this?
You want me to jump on that?
Yeah, take a swing at it.
So as Michael said, we are a pretty sizable organization, right? And just in the U.S. alone, we are challenged with, we have, 3 historical business lines, right? So we have data, all kinds of different data coming in from 3 different business lines, thousands of feeds, very diverse array, constantly changing. Those legacy systems are on older technologies, right? So why did we pick a graph? Why did we go into the proof of concept and do that? Well, we needed a capability to be able to bring that data together and connect those legacy systems and connect those consumers in a single location, right? And so the graph technology and the way that we did the proof of concept with data.world is, I don't know how to describe it. We had to really go after literally thousands of feeds and combine them to a single view of a consumer, right? And the technology and the services, and I know this isn't a sales pitch for the data.world team, but the services component that we got by having a good partner really helped us think differently about the data, the way it was stored, and how do we bring it together, right? Not just in the way that we've conventionally always done it, but also in the way that the capability allows, right? Machine learning capabilities to bring in new math matching methodologies, things like that.
So I do want to let's dive into more of you said the conventional way, and again, the honest, no BS. I mean, everything you're saying about the problem, the need, like this is what every single marketing website or every single customer 360 or MDM company defines that they do, right? So why is it that traditional, quote traditional kind of customer 360 solutions, MDM solutions, customer data platforms and stuff, why isn't that the solution already? Like, what's missing there?
Yeah, great question. And I would say what's fundamentally changed, one, obviously, is the volume of data, but also the construct of high availability, high accessibility, and relationships, being able to see and discover and connect and disconnect relationships at scale. We've moved out of, I mean, it's not just the next chapter, but this is the new book in how you manage data at scale and create availability. So if things like, I mean, originally graphs were built for fraud detection and anomaly detection, but if identity and access management, machine learning, social networking, recommendation constructs are important to you as a business, and they are to everybody, graph technology provides the technology structure for being able to manage that. And I'll just give you take all the technical constructs away, but just the simple outcomes of this. Today, we can now do in 12 hours what we couldn't do in 6 months. We can hypothesize something in terms of here's a new data element that we think can be meaningful to the graph. We operate a graph, just so everyone here knows, about 270 million people, about 20,000 different data points about who you are in the real world, what you buy, what you do online. And it's all around context. We're out in the business of selling people. We're in the business of helping companies better understand people so they can serve them. So our business is all about relationships and being able to connect disparate information. I saw in the chat somebody asked about research data. So panel to population, the speed at which we can take a panel and connect it to a population and validate the efficacy of that. We can now do that across not a small sample, not a 1% sample or a 5 or 10% sample, which I've been living in for the last 25 years, but across the entirety of the graph in a day. And that speed and the visibility and the transparency, these are words that we can't have with an enterprise client without them actually bringing them up first. They need hypervisibility. They need to understand what matters and why. They need to have high accessibility. They need us to be able to support discovery and learning. So this is, again, if you're not in a graph technology structure or method and practice, you're probably not going to be doing a lot of this work for a long time.
You're making Juan smile.
Look, I mean,
this is my personal perspective is that the world is connected, right? And we talk a lot about, I think a lot of the graph databases, they talk about connected data, but honestly, it's much more than that, right? It's connected data, it's connected knowledge with data, connected people, and all these things together. Yeah. And the moment that you're thinking about connections and how things relate to each other, like you're by definition talking about a graph. And honestly, I have to say, it's sometimes really frustrating when we start getting into these conversations. Well, whoa, but no, this is a relational database can do this stuff and things like that. But just to kind of, I get tired of saying this, and I want to get this on record here. Why isn't relational or traditional or MDM enough? Isn't identity graph just a fancy type of MDM, or is this really like that different? I want to hear what are your take on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, it's like horses for courses, right? When things matter, like, again, speed, accessibility, visibility, I've got to say, I've been in the relational, I was in the world when it was flat files, and then it went to relational databases, and then it went to wherever it went to next. And what we're doing right now, again, it's a bit of a wow moment in terms of what we can do. Now, I will say this, I'm sure that relational databases could kind of get you where you're trying to go, right? a horse will get me to California. A car will be much better, right? I mean, purpose built for.
And a plane is better than a car if you want to get
Absolutely.
to California quickly.
Yeah. And if you're Elon, take a rocket, right? So I would simply say the technology is meeting the need of the market where speed matters, accessibility, availability matter, both at the edge, but also for the practitioner that is building, staging, and managing, right? And we do both.
Yeah.
And so to build, stage, and manage, we've got to have the flexibility to test into adding new value into a graph structure. And I will say this, Bret's been doing this as long as I have. I mean, it would take us from idea to deployment in a relational structure with a lot of smart people. I mean, it took weeks and months, and now it's taking hours and days. So
that's an incredible change and evolution, right? And I mean, I think a lot of folks are a little bit worried or scared about some of the new technological approaches, and it's easy for those things to kind of stay a science experiment, right? How are you approaching being able to make sure that this kind of tech can actually be impactful in production with real products and services?
Yeah, I've got to say, our work touches the market. Bret, you can share how you've mobilized our graph into machine learning that then goes right into media and marketing activation.
So I'm going to kind of step back a little bit on that question, and I think it was how do you get started here, right? And how do you make sure that migration is successful? So I would say you got to be methodical and not try to boil the ocean, right? Knowing your use cases and your KPIs for the knowledge graph or your identity graph, hugely important, right? It could be eliminating data silos. It could be improving data quality, data governance, legal compliance, or as Michael suggested, it's about being able to bring better products and services for your clients, right? I think another key, and I think it's easy to get caught up in this, is you got to be able to focus on the relevant data, right? When you look back at your systems, you got to be critical about and understand and concentrate on what's the most impactful data. You need to really be critical because not all data is created equal, and you may not need all of it in the graph. So it's not just a place to pick up and push everything into, but you got to think about, relative to my KPIs, relative to what I'm trying to get done, what is the most impactful data? Of course, you got to pick the right partner, right? I mean, it's always important that you got to pick the right partner. Someone with a proven track record, someone who's agile, someone who's a partner, not just a vendor, obviously someone who's cost competitive, right? And I think the other key there is remember that it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? Kind of project management 101. You start at a reasonable pace and to maintain, good sustainable momentum. You got to make sure you do a proof of concept. You got to build competency and build awareness because it's new technology and it charts a new course, right? Learn from your mistakes, advertise your wins, add data and knowledge to the graph over time. The thing is it's a lot of fun for the folks on our team that are working on this because it is new and it's different and it's new technology and it's new capabilities, and they can kind of see and see what's possible in terms of new capabilities and new products and new services. And it really jazzes them up, man, when they're a part of that and they see what's possible. Michael mentioned, he said something kind of off the cuff. I want you to catch it though. We're bringing in data from three different business lines, right? Systems built in over time, different technologies, different places, right? It would take months to build the marketing universes and months to build the attributes and the things that we build, right? It can be built in 12 hours now, and we did it in 6 months. That from start to finish, we transitioned, concentrating on the most impactful data and very tight KPIs. We made that transition in 6 months. We took those data feeds in and we improved. We hit all of our KPIs. It was awesome.
I do want to touch on one point because you mentioned how do you make sure you're not just building a science project? You have to design to touch the market, right, from the get-go, right? Otherwise, all this work by itself is just a science project unless you find a way to mobilize that and touch the market. So that was the principle that we started out with from day one, and that is How are we going to mobilize this and put it in the hands of practitioners in a way that we can demonstrate real improvement, not just building improvement, which is awesome, right? And those KPIs are dead on accurate. But if you don't build it to touch the market, so we mobilized our graph into this scaled machine learning, we've connected it all the way through to media activation and into marketing activation. There was a question, do we have a callable API? The answer is yes, a callable API so that somebody can touch our graph, give us a piece of data, and we can then say, this is who this is, and here's some data payload we can deliver back that can then, again, touch the market. It can touch a call center, it can touch a personalization engine, it can touch but you have to know that that's what you're trying to do from the start. Otherwise, you build an awesome graph and it sits in a barn.
This is spot on. I think this is one of the things that people get excited about, the knowledge graph and identity graph, and they jump to it like a science experiment, and they kind of build these things up, and it's like, yeah, this is cool, but wait, what are you using it for? What are your KPIs? But what is the problem you're solving? What is the business problem? But at the end of the day, you're like, wait, I love how you're saying it. How is this connected to the market? How is this making money directly for the company? How is this saving money? Like, I think that's why we need to have this notion of we're delivering this graph, but we want to build products and services that consume the graph directly. And every single product and services is directly tied to revenue increase, cost savings, and so forth.
Yeah. And any technology milestones you have along the way are on the way towards some business milestone, right? I think that's probably a lot of mistakes that some projects make, is that they focus on the technology milestones and then they don't get to the business goal.
And then you run out of steam. Right?
Yeah.
Because it never touches the market. So design to touch the market from the very beginning. Everyone needs to know the work. If it doesn't touch the market, you just didn't actually do anything.
And I think when there's like questions of, when people come to the questions about like technology again, like, oh, can't I do this with relational? I'll have to convince my folks, my team about this. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, well, let's stop talking about the technology. Let's talk about the opportunities that we're missing, right? Why are we so slow to go make this? Like, that's the baseline we have. How we can do better with this, and that's how we can compare.
Get them excited by the outcomes, right? The methods and the practices are improving. Graph is one component of it. I look, there's a couple other wow moments that have happened in the last couple of years for us as we've designed to touch the market at scale and with speed. The graph was a minimum requirement. The work we do with Snowflake in terms of data mobilization and accessibility is another piece of it. And then the connection into scaled machine learning, the work that we've done with IBM around Watson and connecting our graph into that space for discovery, and then threading that all the way through into deep integrations with folks like Adobe on the marketing CRM side, or directly into DSPs and SSPs, et cetera. It's but a number of wow moments, and it's because the technology is catching up with the intention. And again, I don't think that means relational databases go away. I just say horses for courses, right? And this graph construct is important for these types of applications and solutions where, again, things like high availability, high accessibility, high discoverability are mission critical to the work that you're trying to accomplish.
So for something like bringing in identity graphs and knowledge graphs, it is aspirational. I think this is kind of like the ideal way of managing your data within the organization. What we were talking about, you can get on the horse to California, but you can rather get there with a car or a plane. On that aspiration, sometimes people kind of struggle with getting that as a priority. But on the other side, there's always like these big pains, like in the finance, there's like regulations and fear that you're going to get fined. And like, that's a big motivator, catalyst to go to change. One of the things I'm seeing in your industry was this end of the cookies era, right? So this is something that I mean, there's an entire industry who's afraid about this, right? How do you relate kind of the end of the cookie era, and maybe if you can also describe what that actual problem is, and how identity graphs and knowledge graphs can really help around that, because that's something that we're starting to see a lot.
Yeah, I'll jump in, and Bret, you can obviously chime in. From our perspective, yeah, that's there are those changes happening, and there's a bit of a power shift. But first-party cookies aren't going away; third-party cookies are, right? So,
yeah. Thanks for the clarification. So third-party cookies are going away.
That matters because it matters when it comes to companies needing to privatize their own first-party data and to enrich that to better understand people. So that actually plays well into the strengths of it. Should be about people, not about devices, not about cookies, not about mobile IDs,
Right.
et cetera. It should have always been about people and understanding people and geographies and communities. It's a challenge, don't get me wrong, is supply side, publisher networks, first party cookies are going to, hashed emails are going to play a greater and greater role in terms of being able to continue to better serve people with relevance, because ultimately consumers still want that, right? But they also want privacy. So our intention always and historically has been start with people. So our graph is built from a people perspective up. Things like emails, hashed emails, first party identity connection is a part of the work that we do. And that ties into where the market is certainly going. So again, I see the changes as they're tectonic, but they're in the right direction, because it is about less about guessing probabilistically and more about knowing deterministically.
Right.
And that's a better position for any or all of us to be in, whether you're a consumer or a brand or a company like ours. Brett?
No, I think you hit it on the head. I mean, and then for us, inside of Wunderman Thompson, right? We, the success that we've had to date, on what we're doing with the graph, and by the way, it's a journey. It's a lot of work. I mean, it's not like this panacea that you just, it's just magic. It's not magic. It takes work, right? But the success that we've had to date, we're now getting an opportunity to engage with the other media companies inside of WPP, and extend our graphing capabilities to help address the kinds of challenges that you just talked about the demise of the third-party cookie and alternate strategies on how to connect to consumers, right? Not as anonymous, cookies, but as people, right? And with preferences and with privacy concerns and so on and so forth. So, we've got some cool stuff already lined up, and we've only been in the graph space for about a year and a half when we started our POC, and it's just catching fire across.
You hit on something so important to put out there, and know that it's I'm sure we could manage without graph support, but around privacy and consumer transparency and visibility. Look, I mean, it's data has always been hard to be able to see, right? And both the kind of combination of knowledge graph and data catalog actually allows us to provide a much higher level of transparency and know the ingredients of ingredients, and to be able to trace and track where those are and how they're used, and to be able to report on it, and also respond to consumer sometimes demand. Stop this, I want to be disconnected. Our ability to now reach in and say, that's not an issue. I mean, yes, it was there before. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that there was no support from a privacy and compliance perspective historically, but the ease of which that is now available to us, and the provenance and the history and the traceability and trackability has exponentially improved. So
yeah,
kudos to technology for, being in position that meets a market need at about the exact time we needed to have it.
Yeah, it seems like this is the perfect timing from a convergence standpoint. And where is this going forward? Do you believe that with these trends, like the end of the third party cookie and the advent of graph technology really come into play, like, is everybody going to build their own identity graph? Are they going to partner with groups like yourself to leverage great sort of solutions that are provided by awesome vendors? Like, what does this market look like as we go forward?
It's a great question. I think we're navigating some of that with some really smart partners, but I think large enterprise clients are going to spend a lot more time, energy, and effort in privatizing and expanding their own understanding of people. I think you'll see probably a community of communities approach that will happen within enterprises, and the connection and sharing of almost like a cooperative construct around first party connection where it benefits the consumer first, because that is the kind of the number one goal. So again, I think there's a lot ahead for all of us, and it's unbelievably engaging the people that are leaning in. And I think while everyone's a little shaken by the underpinnings of an industry are changing, but I don't think anyone is, I don't think anyone's going to throw, it's time for that construct to change anyway. So I think everyone is leaning in to create the right ecosystem for where we're going forward.
There's opportunity here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. To improve.
So,
opportunity.
what are your kind of your final words here for those skeptics? Like I mean, you're saying, I'm here taking notes. You're saying that this is not just a new chapter, right? This is a new book in data management. Like those folks here who are either skeptical, who may not even know about the stuff. What's your message? What should they be paying attention to? What are they missing out if they don't do this?
I would say it's not invisible, right? I mean, I think I'd be happy to demonstrate some of the things that we're able to do that we couldn't do before, right? And look, it is, and I said it earlier, it's a horses for courses kind of structure. It's not everything. You don't need graph for everything.
That's
but
right.
For these things, you're going to be in the best position to be successful. Doesn't mean you will be successful. You'll put yourself in the best position to be successful. And that's something that is transparent and visible, and it can be demonstrated. And in some cases, I'd put a pile on the table and say, if you can beat this, here, go. I'm going to make this change. You make this change. And you come back in 6 weeks and I'll be done in about 4 hours. And, it's, again, it's just a different tool set. So
Yeah,
it is a different tool set.
right? It's a different tool set. And I would say this, everything Michael said was, I think, spot on, but again, just take away from the technology just for a minute, and talk about people, right? Getting the opportunity to do something really new, cutting edge, something that is going to grow and expand. I mean, to the degree that folks on our team are engaging in the graph and learning those skill sets, right? I mean, not only are they getting to do new stuff and cool stuff, but they are increasing their own marketability and their own professional knowledge, right? So beyond just the technical side of it, beyond even the business outcomes, right? The connecting to the market, there's also the people aspect of it, right? The human beings who are saying, wow, this is really cool. There's these cataloging technologies and these identity graph technologies or knowledge graphs in particular. So I would suggest that even within their own, if someone's having a hesitancy, right, even within their own technical community, go back and take a look and say, let's explore this for our business, right, for our KPIs, for our use cases. And is there an opportunity here not only to advance the business, but to advance the people inside of our business, right? And make it a better work-life experience, if you will.
I think that's a great way to wrap this up. And Bret, I told you 30 minutes fly by. So we always like to wrap up with some takeaways. Tim, how about you take away with the first takeaways?
Yeah, sure. My first takeaways are, man, there were so many things here. One of the things that me and Juan do is we take our notes as we're kind of talking and we think about the key things here. And we've got a long set of notes here. I'll say that I love the comment that, this isn't just a new page or a new chapter, that this is a new book. That we're really talking about a different way to do things here. And that you really want to be focused on the outcomes because a lot of folks, they get tripped up on new technologies. I mean, you saw this a lot when really the big data tech really came and the advent of that came. Obviously, now we're kind of working through that ML/AI wave and we're kind of coming out the other end on the plateau of productivity or whatever you want to call it, right? It's really great to always remember that, where you're headed is where you're going to go. So make sure you're heading in the right direction. So I love that. I feel like that's huge advice for our listeners.
Yeah. And my takeaways is, again, following up on it's not a new chapter, it's a new book, and it's about dealing with your data and its relationships at scale, right? I think that's an important thing. And you said, let's make new relationships. Let's disconnect relationships. We want to be able to go do that at scale. And then Bret, you really talked about how to go start. And I think this is a great list. People really need to go follow this. Don't boil the ocean. What are your KPIs? Design to touch the market. How are we going to mobilize this? Focus on the relevant data. Be critical on what's the most impactful data, because not all data is created equal. Not everything needs to be in the graph. pick a right partner, right? Somebody who's a proven track record, somebody who's agile, right? And not just selling you a product of vendor, somebody who's really going to be a partner. And again, the traditional kind of comment, but it's very valid here. This is a marathon and not a sprint. So as always, I'd like to go wrap this up with these two questions. What's your advice? Yes, very broad question on purpose. And who should we invite next to be a guest on the show? So Michael, how about you take us first?
Advice. I just go back to it. Design to touch the market, right? It's so important. Who should you have next? I don't know about who, but from a category perspective, I'd almost pick, like, I think about our client roster, right? Whether they're folks in the automotive industry, the packaged goods industry, financial services, bring in any one of those people to share their both challenges and needs in the marketplace going forward. I think you'd have a fantastic conversation where they could express work that they're doing, but really what they need. And I think you would find a pretty material connection between the capabilities and the needs.
Awesome. How about you, Bret?
Who to invite next? I was joking with you. I think you should invite Matthew McConaughey, but I was just joking.
He would be pretty great, honestly.
He'd be entertaining. He'd be entertaining. That's for sure. No, I as you guys talked about, you kind of leaned in on some questions about third-party cookies, and we talked about privacy a little bit here. I think something that might be interesting for folks is you might want to bring in some of the expertise, like the IAB Tech Lab just sat in on a webinar that they had the other day, going through some of their initiatives around the third-party cookie and what's changing there, or maybe like some folks from the Future of Privacy Forum or something like that, because consumer privacy is critical, and it's not just as us as practitioners, but us as human beings, right? We want to know that our data is being protected, that it is being appropriately protected, right? And so it's going to become a bigger and bigger part of everything that we do in the data business. And so maybe someone from one of those entities that's overseeing and helping driving policy in response to the legislative initiatives out there.
I think they would be pleasantly shocked and surprised at what is coming to help, right?
Cool. And any final advice? Open question, Bret?
Oh no, I think we hit it. I mean, you guys in the review hit it. It's again, it's outcomes based, and you really I would again start small, right? Start small with very measurable outcomes, and think critically about what it is you're trying to get out of it, and what of the things that you're doing actually belong in the graph relative to other solutions.
I'll just say to everyone that puts themselves on this path, I can guarantee you at some point in time in a room, somebody is going to say, wow. There's a wow moment, and you will just, it's happened for everyone on our team and everyone we've shared the work that we're doing. Even when I prep them and say, somebody is going to say, wow, it always happens. So be prepared for that. It's fun.
We really need to wrap up, but I need to ask this. What was your wow aha moment? What was it? Do you remember what it was, when it was?
Yeah. When Bret said, yeah, we thought this and we tested it. We thought it this morning, we tested it today, and we knew the answer at the end of the day. I'm like, what? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that didn't just happen once. That happened a lot.
It makes me go, wow. Yeah.
All right. Well, there's a wow moment. So everybody who's listening, what is your wow moment, right? Anyways, thank you so much for your time. Just a quick kind of wrap up here. Next week is the data.world summit. It's going to be next Thursday on the 25th at 11 a.m. Central. We got folks from Snowflake, from Booz Allen, LinkedIn, Fivetran, the Zebra, Data Kitchen, Fish 10 Analytics. And I think also both of you guys will be joining us in our summit. So see you all next week. And then next week we have the topic of provenance with Professor Deborah McGinnis from RPI. So Professor Deborah McGinnis, she's an expert on provenance, we're doing so much research, and he has a vast amount of experience and research in the whole area of semantic web and knowledge representation. So it'll be a really great conversation. With that, cheers, Michael. Cheers, Bret. Thanks for your time.
Tim, thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Yep.